Welcome to 6 Minutes. I'm Jason Fulmore. Today we are talking about the Alabama 5A dual championships. I'm here with Jaxon, Pablo Bast. Jaxon, how's it going?
It's going well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So before we get to this, I don't know that lots of people in Alabama know who you are because of your background at Spain Park and winning 2 state titles. Was it 2?
Yep.
All right. And especially your celebration at the end of winning, right, was certainly one to remember. But if anybody's new, right, and hasn't, they're fairly new to things, you've gone away to Bluefield and are wrestling up there and doing sports information up there, and that's Virginia. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you're still talking about, involved, understanding what's going on in Alabama. So you do the Alabama Wrestling Forums, drop some rankings. You still know all the kids and all those sorts of things. What before we get to it, why still that connection to Alabama and the importance of doing it?
Well, actually, I started Alabama Wrestling Forums because I remember coming into here, I thought there were going to be other kids who have actually worked with media. I didn't even think I really wanted to do media until after I got out of high school. So I didn't really try to do that. So I kind of got this opportunity. It's been kind of my passion project, and I loved every second of it. Of course, most of these guys that I'm still covering, I trained with at some point,
right,
or I've talked to, and these guys are awesome. And I love being able to spotlight and showcase a lot of these guys.
Yeah, and you do a lot of work, with them or on your stuff. I saw you creating graphics and you got your rankings, and I know I've got some rankings, you've got some rankings, and the Alabama Wrestling Coaches Association has some rankings, and we agree for the most part. We got a few things that we disagree about, but how is it hard to keep track of what's going on in Alabama, being so far away and being busy?
No, I think that a lot of my time I do keep up with what's going on. Most of my rankings, I do it kind of like how Flow would do their rankings if they did Alabama rankings. So although I might think a kid's better, I can't think of an example, but I've had kids ranked lower than I think they should be, but I'm only doing it based on how somebody would rank them.
Okay. All right.
It's not my picks to win state. It's just how I would rank.
Yeah. And that's what I say, mine are always with that caveat of, I'm not doing any predictions, right? It's not a prediction thing. It's simply a ranking and not every number one wins, and you weren't number one when you came in and won your last time, right? Didn't you have a loss?
I did. I got pinned in the first period at the Heart of Dixie finals to Thor.
Yeah. And so you probably were chasing him that entire time until you got to that state final when you had that rematch with him, right?
I think my junior year, I was technically ranked second behind Douglas Thompson of Vestavia.
Okay. Yeah. So, it's a perfect example. So, all right. So today we are going to talk about Alabama 5A, 6A, right? My opinion, one of the most exciting divisions in our classifications in Alabama because of lots of different schools and everything else. And we're going to be talking about the duels because they kick off tomorrow for 5A, 6A. And actually, the 7A duels are getting ready to get started right now. And I wish they were being streamed, but it is what it is. So, all right. So let's flip this over and take a look. All right, Jaxon, can you see our schedule here?
I do.
All right, so let's just go through this, not quickly, but let's give everybody an overview of kind of what you think, what I think, what we kind of expect to see happen. So before we get to that, I want to tell everybody, especially if you're new or you don't know, these 4 teams are in a quad. So as you can see by the what's going on by the schedule up here, Tallahassee, Spanish Fort, Gulf Shores, and Benjamin Russell they'll wrestle. Those 2 teams will wrestle. Those 2 teams wrestle, and then the winners will wrestle to advance to the semifinals. So that is quad 1, quad 2, so on and so forth, all the way down. So by next Tuesday, well, Friday night probably, we'll have 4 teams left, and we'll have to get together again and discuss those 4 teams. But let's take Tallahassee and Spanish Fort. General impressions right off the top, kind of those 2 teams.
So I would definitely say that Tallahassee, I actually did not get to see that they had won their region, but that's a tough team. Of course, I just lost the coach's name.
Coach Mask. Yeah,
Coach Mask. Because his father's very active on all social media platforms. So but yeah, Coach Mask has done a great job over there. I see a couple names that I recognize have been kind of peeking in, especially when I did those top 10s. They were probably those 7s, those 8s, those 9s, like John Burnham, Christian McCary, and Jake Delabrine. And then, of course, Coach Countryman has just done a fantastic job as Spanish Fort. And I'm very kind of happy to see. I know that they've kind of had a slew of coaches that have just gone through. They've probably had 3 or 4 different coaches in the last 6 years. That's a tough team. That's a team that's produced. They usually produce about 10 to 12 state qualifiers every season. So my first impression is I'm probably going to end up calling Spanish Fort in the long haul.
Okay, cool. So I think I think this is actually a really tough one for me to kind of call and for me to look at. The way I always think about it is when I coached was that it was a race to 8. 8 wins get you a dual win most of the time, like 98% of the time. So where do those wins occur on Tallahassee side? Where do those wins occur on Spanish Fort side? Taking a look at Spanish Fort, you've got Gabe Warren, who was a state runner-up and a state champion. I can't remember if he won state one year or if he was just a state or runner-up.
Yeah, he won state in
2 years ago.
2020. Yep.
Yeah. So you got Gabe Warren at 132, could wrestle 138. That's one of the things I love about duels is that, if you've got another kid in at 132 and you feel like you got a better matchup, you can bump a kid up to get a better matchup. Denver Persinger at 152. And you already mentioned a couple of names on Tallahassee side, but, I think Spanish Fort has to get those wins to really give them the shot. Is there any particular matchup in this duel that you look at that you go, I'm sitting in the stands, that's the match I want to watch?
Yeah, actually the first one that when I was looking at it was Denver Persinger and John Burnham. I think that's going to be a good match, and it's one that's quite a toss-up. Okay.
And could be really important to the overall outcome of the duel.
Another thing is that, you're expecting someone like Gabe Warren, he's had the all-time pin record, but he's going against a really tough Land Bell. Yeah. 132. And like you said, of course, you don't know what other coach is thinking. They might bump him up or put him down. And of course, I've seen Gabe Warren pin Gray Ortiz. So he could pin just about anybody, but I think that's a match that Tallahassee, if they can keep it, within a couple points, that's a match that they could definitely maybe not win, but keep to a decision.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, because not giving up 6. I mean, and for those people that are new, 6 points, if you get a pin in a duel, it's worth 6 points. If you get a technical fall, which is 15 or more points, you get 5. Major decision, you get 4. And a regular decision, you get 3. So if you're able to hold it to a regular decision there, keep it within a few points, not have it a major, you basically almost can erase a win that Gabe Warren would normally give you two wins or a fall most of the time.
And another big thing is I know Spanish Fort is coming off a 2nd place finish at the Baldwin County tournament, came away with 4 champs. So I think kind of coming off of that really big win can definitely drive them into winning this first match and possibly the quad.
All right. So I'm glad you brought that up. So let's move down to the next group, which is Benjamin Russell and Gulf Shores. And, Spanish Fort, if they were to advance, they know Gulf Shores pretty darn well. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk a little bit about this matchup. General overall impressions of these 2 teams.
Well, obviously Gulf Shores is just, they've got probably the best coaching staff in the state currently with Coach Brantley, Oh, he's gonna get so mad at me. I know they have three really solid coaches. And then, like I said, Noah Guthrie, top ranked kid. I think after taking out Jaxon Unger, or somebody took out Jaxon Unger. A couple other names I recognize: Ethan Sharkey at 126, and then Charlie Hollis, and then Sam Shepker are both ranked up there. And then the transfer in Keyshawn Siosi from Oxford. Right. That was a big grab for them. Maybe not, Ciosi's not going to be a state champ, but he's definitely in that state placer realm currently.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because you don't have to have a state champ in a duel. You know, a kid who can go out there and get you a win as you progress to 8. And you just named the names that I was thinking of, as Guthrie and Sharkey and Hollis and so on and so forth. You start counting those up. You start expecting, all right, we're getting close to 7. We're getting close to 8. We're getting close to the number that is important. Flip it over to the Benjamin Russell side. Who are the kids who are going to keep them close to Gulf Shores?
And that would bring up probably one of the better matches is going to be between Sharkey and Sandlin Pike, who was a state finalist a couple years back at 106. Lee Leonard, always in that top 10 kind of spot. Jamarion Weststone, pretty solid kid at 152. Savon Spradley, older brother, was a state champ now at Huntington, and pretty solid wrestler. He's a guy that really likes to go upper body. Kind of reminds me of Hezekiah Hunter, who's now playing football over at Iowa Wesleyan.
Oh, but, really?
Very, I think he still is. I know he committed there and he went there. But he reminds me a lot of them, likes to go upper body, likes to throw kids, which is always kind of good to have in a dual meet. You know, feast or famine, you can pick it. I think it makes it more exciting. And then at 220, I think brings up another really solid matchup between Charlie Hollis and Trace McCaleb.
Yeah. And I think that because, at least on paper, it looks like Benjamin Russell might have a couple of holes that they have to kind of shuffle into. Getting those toss-up matches like the Hollis-McCaleb match, getting points from Jamarion Whetstone, Pike winning, those things are going to be super important for them to keep it close. So at the end of the day, who are you thinking?
I'm probably going to have to go with Gulf Shores. I think that, they win more of the toss-up matches, and I don't know if Benjamin Russell's going to be able to fill those holes with a lot of really solid wrestlers. I'm probably have to go with Gulf Shores.
All right. So if that happens, and again, we're not making predictions. I want to make sure everybody knows that it's way too many unknowns in high school wrestling to make a prediction about who's going to win, who's not going to win. If that happens, we get a rematch between Spanish Fort and Gulf Shores. So Spanish Fort has the last win in a duel. Can Gulf Shores overcome that? Or do you think Spanish Fort is the team that kind of books their ticket to the semis? If you can't see his face, he's thinking.
I'm really thinking about this one because, like I said, Spanish Fort placed second, but to the first team was Gulf Shores.
Right.
Gulf Shores has always kind of had Spanish Fort's number, big, up and coming. I love all the wrestling that's going on in Baldwin County. But honestly, yeah. I think that's the one that goes, that could be like a 36-42 match, something that's really close.
All right. Yeah, no, I think that actually was a fairly close what their last duel was. I could be wrong. I didn't write all this down, so you'd have to forgive me if I don't know the exact scores or who won specific matches, but I agree with you. I think it'll come down. And, one of the things I always like about duels that we haven't talked about yet is that it may not come down to the kid who's going to end up being a state placer or a state champion. It may come down to the kid who is a first-year varsity wrestler against another first-year varsity wrestler that ends up determining who wins the duel. So is there anybody on either of those two teams or anybody in these 4 teams that we don't know about that you think might kind of surprise a few people?
I named pretty much everyone. I would say the biggest dark horse for that one is probably going to be Jamarion Whetstone. I know I've heard Kilo. Kilo's very solid, over 75% kind of wrestler. I think that could be one of the bigger ones.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure that we touch on, because it could come down to those types of matches. All right, so let's move on. Wetumpka, McAdory, Chelsea, Jasper. One of the things I always found really interesting about this matchup is we're at Jasper, but I don't think Jasper was the region champions, which is a little unusual. So, but it doesn't matter. We've got McAdory versus Wetumpka first. So again, on paper, give me your just overall kind of what you think about this matchup.
Honestly, I am 100% surprised that this is a first round matchup.
Okay.
I mean, both these teams have won a state title within the last 3 years. At the individual state. Overall, I think this is probably going to be the marquee for the entire first round between these two. I was a little shocked when I saw Wetumpka had lost to Chelsea, but this is a really big toss-up overall. The Millers really solid at 106 and 113. Waldrop and early. And then honestly, most of it's going to have to come in with the bottom half if Wetumpka wants to win it. They've got some ones, of course, I think 106. Roman McWilliams, I think he just won the Julian McPhillips over in St. James. Wesley Miller, seen him pretty solid time. 126.
Is that the matchup to watch?
That is 100% the matchup. Now, I will say this: I followed Hudson during the Homewood Holiday Scramble, and he was turning everyone with ease. I think he's probably made one of the biggest jumps I've ever seen. And granted, this is a kid who's getting, third at state, and he made like a ginormous stride. It looks like nobody can stop any of his tilts. I don't know how many how many technical falls that he has this season, but can't be a small number.
So I'm 100% with you. I think 126 is the marquee matchup, but as we talked about before, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to end up where the duel, ends up falling. It could. Down at the bottom, I think Christian Preston is obviously a name that you have to watch for Wetumpka. Willie Cox, definitely a heavyweight to watch down for Wetumpka. McAdory is really tough down below. And then you've got Knight and Graham at 70 and 82. I can count probably 5 wins on McAdory's side, 4 wins on Wetumpka's side. And then I think the others are kind of toss-ups, and what's going to happen in that situation. So do you expect another really close duel between these two?
I do. And it's kind of sad that it seems like the 170, 182 don't line up with the 95 and heavyweight.
Yeah.
I don't know if Coach Dutton is watching this, but if we can make it happen, I would love to see Savion Graham wrestle Christian Preston at this duel.
that would be nice, but he wants to get a win for sure. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I think that's a win that I think that Savion Graham could get over Christian Preston. I think Preston's a little greener than Savion Graham. And Savion has had some really close matches with Luke Jasper for Mortimer Jordan. I've seen them.
Yeah.
They've probably wrestled 4 times already, and it's only halfway through the season.
Right. No, I'm with you. Okay, so we'll put this one on the back burner for a minute. Let's flip on down to Chelsea and Jasper. Chelsea got the win over Wetumpka, so they're the champs from Region 3, and they pull a tough team in Jasper. So how does this one, just a big overview of these two teams, how does it look to you? He hasn't gone away, folks.
Honestly, I'm running down the list, and I think I'm leaning over more with Chelsea. Chelsea's got a couple more studs. I think 120 is going to be
a great match.
A great match between those two guys. 145 will be a good toss up if you see Carter Reed wrestling 45 or 52. Breakfield, solid wrestler. 160. You see Colin Burrows against Preston Reed. Wow. I didn't think Preston Reed had made it down to 60. Wow.
I pulled this from, I think, their last duel or something like that. So that's how I got the matchups, or I got their weights. And when they had kind of been moved around a little bit, I gave, the slash of being able to move. I think I agree with you in that I think Chelsea has more moving parts. They can move to maybe make the matchups that they want. Doesn't mean they're going to win the matchups, but I think they have an opportunity to try to create more matchups. Jasper's a little bit more kind of set in their lineup from the way it looks to me. All right. So just give me one match that you think is a tough match, could be a toss up, and could determine who the winner is of this duel.
I'm probably gonna have to go with 170. Okay. I've seen Colton Sills wrestle a lot, and I've talked to a couple people who just say they absolutely hate wrestling him because he will try to throw, and that he's taking on probably 5 or 6 Moises Sanchez, and that's a big win if he can get it. So I would say that's probably the match that I'd be looking for in this duel.
All right. So now we got these 4. We throw them in a grinder. We don't know. I mean, we can't have a conversation before they wrestle the final match, right? And because they're going to go wrestle those 2 matches and then go right to that next match on, what day is it? Tomorrow. Tomorrow they're going to do that. So without analyzing potential matchups, because we have no idea what that's going to be, your just gut feeling of one of those teams that might kind of emerge.
I would say that
and it's okay to say you don't know.
I would say it would probably be McAdory.
All right.
I think we see personally, I think we see a McAdory Chelsea matchup, and I think McAdory comes out on top.
Okay.
Like you said, you can only try to predict. You can't.
Yeah. And to be fair, McAdory has held pretty much the number 3 spot behind Arab and Gardendale pretty much all season. So they have been battle tested. They got some great kids. And I think I lean the same direction you lean. All right. So let's move down to the bottom side of the bracket, which is bottom side of the bracket, but north in Alabama. I don't understand how that works out, but doesn't matter. Friday, we've got Scottsboro versus Athens and Hartselle versus Arab. So very quickly, let's just general overview of Scottsboro and Athens.
These are both teams who have been absolute powerhouses in the past. Coach Staten over at Scottsboro, he's got a long legacy. You've seen multiple guys like Colton Clark, Brett Clark, Brandon Womack come out, be solid Division I wrestlers. And Athens has produced time and time again. And of course, young gun Will Anderson and the veteran Andrew Maxwell on that team. Overall, I got stopped in my track. I'm probably gonna go with Scottsboro.
Okay, I'm with you.
I would go with Scottsboro on this.
How good of a matchup is Unger versus Staten at 106? Unger is 1 or 2 in 5A 6A, right? But Staten's as a young hammer. He's gonna bring it, right?
Yeah, actually. So he was a 1 through 5A state finalist. Caleb Anderson. He graduated. He was helping out, and I got a text from him who's like Stone is really mad that you don't have him ranked at 106. And I'm like, well, he lost to so-and-so and so-and-so, but he just went over into, he wrestled really solid when they went over to the Bob Jones tournament.
Okay.
And I think now this is one that I think he has the opportunity to prove himself. I don't think, although that Jaxon Unger is a 1 or a 2, I think that Stanton has a really good shot of possibly getting a decision going his way.
Okay. All right, cool. And then you've got the Stewart kids, obviously, of Scottsboro. You've got Anderson and Maxwell. I think those are some, if you're a casual fan sitting in the stands, you don't know a whole lot about these two teams. For me, I would be paying attention to those lightweights. I think the lightweight matchups and this matchup is really quite good. But like before, I think what you said, well, I said it before, but I think you're alluding to is that I think Scottsboro might have a little bit more of an ability to move some pieces around, create the types of matchups that they want. Is that the reason you lean a little bit towards Scottsboro, or is it anything else?
No, I would say that Scottsboro probably has the guys who I've seen do really well in the postseason. They've got such a great team chemistry. And I'm not saying that Athens doesn't, because I know that I saw the excitement off of Isaiah Unger's Instagram story of what it was like to win the region championship.
Right.
But I don't know, these Scottsboro guys, a lot of them like Colby Clark and Clinton Stewart, both senior leaders who have gone up through since they were in 7th grade, and they're leading this team. That's mostly what I'm going with Scottsboro for.
All right. So the question is whether either of these, whichever of these two teams actually gets through, do either of them have a shot to beat Arab? And that's assuming Hartselle can't beat them. But Arab from top to bottom is a very, very solid team.
Yeah, I mean, I personally do not think so. Arab, I don't know how they do it. At first, I thought they were giving their kids some kind of weird serum back when I was in high school. So I remember, because I've always loved bracketology and how it was made, even since when I started wrestling at 11 years old. I went into the bathroom at sectionals and I heard them talking about where they're going to be in the bracket. And they like, okay, I'm in the constellation quarters. If I win this match, I can get through the number 5 guy, make it. I'm like, because I've driven through Arab. There's not too much going on there.
Don't hold it against him. He's just throwing it out there.
Well, no, like it's a rural town. It's a rural town.
Yes, it is.
North Alabama, but wrestling is the heart of the city, and they kind of invest in that.
They do. And, I don't want to call it a plug and play system, because it's not. They develop all their kids and everything else. But like the top programs across the state, that next kid is ready to step up and ready to take the responsibility of the team and knowing what is required of them to get it done. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So obviously on Hartselle's side, not to pay attention to them, but Lincoln Bryant is a phenomenal wrestler. He's a really good wrestler. They've got a few other kids that I think are ranked, but top to bottom, I think Arab is probably the team to beat in this quad. Do you think anybody can knock them off and stop them from getting to the semifinals again?
Probably not, but I would like to say that if you guys are getting invested in this duel, like if you're there and you want to see a matchup, like you said, 132, you see an Austin Silva, a Lincoln Bryant matchup, but even at 120, Cabe Dunn was unable to wrestle at state tournament, and I'm very happy to see these back on the mat. I know a little dehydration here and there, but Gage Roberts from Hartselle, that's a tough kid.
Yeah, it is. You're right. And Ethan England down at 138 as well. So it's going to be really interesting. All right. Now we get to my favorite quad, which is Mortimer Jordan, Gardendale, Mountain Brook, who surprised Gardendale and won the region. And they get Corey Land, Ryan Summerlin's Moody squad. So let's start with this last squad. This is my favorite one, just because for the longest time, I thought Gardendale was pretty much unstoppable. I thought they were going to roll, and then Mountain Brook pulls in and gets a 36-33 win, and kind of shows that Gardendale isn't as invincible as we think they are. So talk a little bit about this Mortimer Jordan Gardendale matchup and overall kind of what you see. Are there any matchups that you're really looking forward to watching?
Yeah, I would say that just right off the bat, Caleb Wright, DeMarcus Poe, if we could see that, that's going to be a solid matchup between two really young guys. And Wright, he went to Fargo with Brody, and he's been, I don't know what it is, but anytime the guy, any kid goes to the Fargo training camps that are put on in Alabama, they come back the next year and they're studs. Yeah, most of the time. 113, I think that having Blankenship at 113 is going to minimize and be able to mitigate the damage that can be done, because Blankenship is one of those guys that we've talked about. He said the next guy is ready to step in, and he's been there all the time. He's not a guy who likes to give up 6 points either. He'll fight.
Yeah, no, he will. I actually, I watched the Gardendale Arab duel last year, and I think he took the loss, but he was right in that match. And you're right. He didn't win, I don't believe, but he certainly was, keeping the match, doing what was necessary for Gardendale to get the win over Arab in last year's semifinals. So let's skip down. Mortimer Jordan, who else down in that other part of the lineup matches up with Gardendale to try to kind of stop some of their studs?
I would say the Luke Jasper Kennedy Wyatt match, obviously, is going to be a big one. Now the question is, do they wrestle Kennedy Wyatt?
Right.
I don't know. I could see them not wrestling him in that, because I think this is kind of a good matchup for Gardendale to have if they're ready to get in against Mountain Brook. Like we've kind of walked by was the 132 through 170. Looks like Gardendale's kind of got their number in some of those weights. 195, Jimmy Reed is a match that I think could go towards Mortimer Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's probably where I'm at overall.
Yeah. So just in first glance for me, you look at Caleb Wright, DeMarcus Poe, that's going to be a really toss-up match. It's going to be a good match. Birdie Christmas obviously gets the lean down there. 120 is another toss-up match. 26 is kind of a toss-up match, because and Mortimer Jordan kind of needs those matches, because from 32 to 70, Gardendale's going to get their points. Now, I think that where Mortimer Jordan has a shot is down when you get heavier, 95, 220, that sort of thing. And I don't know the heavyweights very well. So I don't think it's a slam dunk that Gardendale wins, but do you believe that Gardendale gets the win here?
I do. And I am going to have to say at 120, I think that's the match that Mortimer Jordan can win, because Cruz Rainwater is a force to be reckoned with. He went over to the schoolboy duels. I think he came out 6-5, 7-5. And I mean, I think that's a match that will probably go in favor of Mortimer Jordan. So like you said, it's kind of maybe not.
Right. Race to 8. That's what we used to always think about. So skip on down here, Mountain Brook to Moody. Moody, obviously, Corey Land and Ryan Summerlin, Arias Clark. I think that's how you say his name. Owen Moore. You got some really good individuals. But I think Mountain Brook as a whole is probably a better team. Would you agree with that statement?
I definitely would. And
so what do you see in terms of matchups in this matchup?
I would say 145 England Moore would be a really solid one. Phipps Summerlin at 152. And then I saw one more. And then at 220 between Courtney and Suggs. Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, I would assume most of you do, Corey Land is a world silver medalist. He's signed to go to Northern Iowa. If you get a chance, you don't watch wrestling a ton. I'm sure all the people in Mountain Brook and all of them know who Corey Land is. But if for some reason somebody's listening to this and they don't, that is a kid that you should totally pay attention to and watch on the mat. He is special. So, all right. So let's now project out. Do you thinking now that's a Mountain Brook Gardendale rematch?
I think we do. And I think I'm going to have to take Gardendale the second time.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, Mountain Brook's already proven that they've won once, right?
They have. And I know that dual match got a little heated, but I don't know. I think that's going to be outside of there's another one, but that one's probably going to be more my favorite to look at quarterfinals wise.
Nice. Okay. Well, we've broken down a bunch of these matches in 5A, 6A. You're good with coming back on next week before the Tuesday matches, and we can talk a little bit more in depth about the two semifinals. Would that work for you?
Of course.
All right. Awesome. Well, Jaxon, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to try to keep this, well, not short because we talked for quite a while, but we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and I'll drop a couple others. We're going to talk about 1A, 4A as well, and then we'll get back together and talk about some of these matchups for next week as well. Does that work?
Yes, sir.
All right. You take care.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye.